Hello, everyone. It is time for another awesome interview. Today, I am joined by one of the stars of the season's most beloved shows, Natalie Van Sistine. Natalie, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I usually like to start these off by just asking a simple question. What are some things that you've been working on recently that you're able to share with us?
Well, actually, I just had a new role drop today that I'm really excited about. I play Irene Adler and James Bonde in the series Moriarty the Patriot. And I've been sitting on that one for 6 months. So I'm really excited I can talk about that finally.
Finally, James Bond I can get behind.
Yes, love it.
That's fantastic. So I usually like to start these interviews just kind of getting to know folks a little bit. What made you first take an interest in acting?
I originally started out, I wanted to be more of a writer than an actor. I was from the suburbs of Milwaukee and Wisconsin. I didn't really think people like me got to be actors beyond like community theater. And I was not very successful with community theater. So I never really thought it was much of a path for me. So I originally started writing and figured that would be a good way to be like still tell stories and be creative in my own way. And you could do that from wherever, right? And I think what really, really helped me catch the acting bug despite all that was the extended edition of the Lord of the Rings movies, because those came with two extra discs. Each one came with all of the special features about how you made a movie, and from all the way from pre-production all the way through post-production. And that was the first time I'd really heard about what it was like to be on a movie set and what it was like to work in post-production audio. And I think that kind of took root there and really just continued to grow with me. And I also very distinctly remember the special features on some of the Ghibli dubs as well, as those started coming out in the mid 2000s, I think it was, and seeing people behind the microphone. And that was like kind of the first time I was like, voice actor is a career. Wouldn't that be cool? I'll never do it, but wouldn't that be cool? And I think it just grew from there.
That's fantastic. It's kind of interesting that your intersection between like writing and starting to take an interest in acting was, of course, the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh yeah.
the one of the most seminal book series / movies ever.
Yeah, it was totally life-changing for me, because until that point, like I'd kind of been putzing around with writing, but when I saw those movies, I was like, I have to tell stories. That was like a big switch for me.
Now I have to kind of take this and go down this rabbit hole. What kind of stories do you want to tell?
So I really seem to gravitate around, I like the idea of liminal stories. So there's kind of one foot in the real world and one foot in something more fantastical or outside of us. So I really like, and that can stretch from just about any genre. So I've been working on a podcast series that I haven't been able to keep up with as much lately, but I do want to still finish that out, at least as some ebooks or something like that. That is about people with like superpowers. And I've got some different ideas about a lot of urban fantasy, and I love like creepypasta type stories too, where they always are kind of very grounded, but there's always something creepy happening. So I've putzing around with some things like that too. I haven't gotten a lot of my own work published yet because I'm very, very particular and trying to make sure I'm happy with it and confident with it before I put it out in the world.
Well, I know I personally would love to see some of that, and I really do hope that you get yourself to a point where you're comfortable sharing that with the world, because I think those are really interesting stories. I'm gonna do something that I typically don't do, but you mentioning this kind of story, something that I'd seen recently immediately came to mind. And it's kind of related because it is an anime, but there's a movie that Sentai put out called Aura that is a really, really great movie. And I don't want to get too much into the description because it starts to spoil some things, but it is one of the most interesting takes on that sort of duality between the real world and the magical. And it's such a powerful movie. Like when you get to the end, it's like, oh God, I did not know we were going to end up here. And it's like, I'm tearing up by the end of this movie. It's such a powerful story that explores the importance of magic, not just in like the literal sense of, casting spells or something like that, but just the idea that it plays in our lives.
Mhm.
And it's just such a great movie. You can get it on the cheap from Sentai when they're doing one of their sales. I think they're
Yeah.
doing through the end of the month of May, but by the time people listen to this, it may already be over because we're recording this towards the end of May.
Well, I'm definitely putting that on my like
Yeah,
to watch list because
yeah.
that already sounds very fascinating.
It may be on High Dive. I'm not positive, but it was a movie I bought. Because they do their sales. You want to get up to like free shipping. It was like
Yeah.
$3 on Blu-ray or something like that.
Oh man.
Like I said, it was like $3. I don't remember exactly.
Mhm.
It was really cheap, and it's really good. So I'm sorry, I just like completely derailed this interview to go
No,
to
that's
go like
fine.
go down this other path. But I really like. I thought you would enjoy it, and I definitely think the listeners will enjoy it as well. It's such a good and unexpected film that
Mhm.
I'm just gonna sing its praises right here and right
No,
here and
like
now.
you find something like that. Like those are always like the coolest things to talk about and be like, listen, you need to
Yeah, I don't.
watch, read this, whatever.
I hadn't heard of it,
Mhm.
and I try and stay on top of things when it comes to anime, but it hit me so hard that I was like, oh man, this is such a good movie. I need to tell people about this movie. So
Yeah.
I just I hijacked the moment. So
Mhm. Oh no, you're good. You're good.
anyway, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled interview already in progress. Who would you say has had the biggest impact on your career? And this can be an inspiration. It can be someone who's been supportive, anything like that. I kind of leave that pretty open to interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I think two of the people who have been most important to my voice acting career, especially where I've moved forward today, is Amber Lee Connors has just been a huge support for me, like from like ground one. I met her back in like 2009, 2010 or so, and we've been friends for a long time. And when she started building her company, Sound Cadence, she brought me in very, very early on as like, I know you're passionate about working on projects and you're reliable, and I trust you to help me out with this. And it's just been amazing to be able to watch her grow, her all of the work she's been able to get behind, and just the really wonderful company she's built. So I really appreciate that she's trusted me and taken me along. She recommends me a lot to other like directors and stuff. So she's just been constantly so supportive of me, and I really genuinely I'm so grateful for that. And also too, I got to give a shout out to Alyssa DeMoss as well. She is currently the engineer ADR supervisor at Crunchyroll, but she worked with me at Sound Cadence for a bit as a mixer and engineer. Totally brought me up and trained me because I also do audio engineering too, and just really helped train me and make me more confident as an engineer and feel like I was very competent and able to do a lot with that too. So just two really amazing ladies in my life.
That's fantastic. I'm glad that you have that support. Just in anything that we do in life, having supportive people around is so important. So I'm really grateful that you have that, and that they've helped get you to where you are now, where we get to enjoy some of your talents. I'm just getting this in my head that before long we're gonna see you. You're gonna have like 8 different parts in making a production where you might end up writing and engineering and acting and who knows what else. Like you're certainly extremely talented, so it seems like you've got a lot of things that you can bring to the table.
It's dangerous because I want to do everything. And I think doing everything is really cool. And I really got schooled on that in high school, actually, because originally I was interested in going into a career as a music teacher. And I thought, and then I'd write on the side. And I had a math teacher who was like, Natalie, you are way better at like math and stuff in science than you're letting on. And I was like, no, I'm terrible. I'm creative, like creatives don't do math. And he took so much time and really put so much time and effort into helping me feel like if I wanted to commit to learning something, I could do it, and just would sit down and make sure I understood the concepts. And I didn't do amazingly in math, but I went on and I got an electronic engineering degree first before I went into voiceover. And he totally changed the trajectory of my life, where I was like, I never thought I could do anything like that. And he totally was like, no, if you want to, you can teach yourself, you can learn how to do this. And I totally believe you're capable. And I've taken that with me very far beyond just, you know, math class.
That is wild. I am just incredibly impressed right now. That is so fantastic. Kudos to you. That is amazing.
So yeah, it was a lot because I kept, my problem was I kept stopping going, no, I have to have a practical degree. I have to do something practical. And so I keep having all these milestones of these great things. Like I worked on MRIs for a while. I've done all kinds of a lot of weird things. I worked in customer support, instructional design. It's been a wild ride to get here.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if there's going to be much else that you're going to do that's going to surprise me at this point. It's going to be like, okay, well, now she's, you know, a rocket scientist. Okay, yeah, sure. That tracks. All right. Yeah, whatever she wants to do, because she obviously has talent to do it.
The duality of that is I have to also stop myself, because just because I can do everything doesn't mean I have the stamina and the ability to commit to everything.
You know what? That's a good instinct. Otherwise, we end up with Jurassic Park.
Or that. Yes. That's
yeah.
The extreme end of that.
We have to stop and ask ourselves, should we sometimes? That's a good instinct to have.
Yes, because I'm like, oh, games are interesting. I want to learn how to program games, and I want to do all these other things. And
I mean, at this point, you may as well just get into game design. You can write it. You can, you know, do the music. You can just do all of it.
So much money. Just do everything myself.
Yeah, one woman show. There we go. Wow. Okay.
I'm a menace. Can't stop myself.
Oh wow. Fantastic. I just want you to do all the things now, okay? I'm just gonna be absolutely, you know, totally genuine. I'm rooting for you to do literally everything now. Just all of it. Just do all of it. Whatever you want. Let's go. I am jumping on this bandwagon. Let's go. Natalie does whatever she wants.
I'm a firm believer, if you want to do something, you can figure out a way to do it. It might not look exactly the way you thought. And I think that's the important thing, is that you have to be open for what that road looks like. And it might not be what you expected, but it can definitely lead to just about anything.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great mindset. I want to circle back to something that you mentioned earlier. You know, you said that you weren't particularly successful when you were doing community theater. So I'm just kind of curious, what has been your biggest challenge in terms of being a performer?
So with community theater, what I really struggled with was I actually really struggled to maintain eye contact and just physicality in general. I was just not very coordinated, very confident. And part of that was because I was kind of a slightly heavier, very awkward teenager who was not confident in myself. And that definitely translated on stage. And so voiceover was very freeing because it removed so much of the stuff I struggled with and allowed me to focus on, you know, just the storytelling, and I could focus on my voice. And so like the musicality of performing was very important, and kind of tied back to my music background, where I was playing the piano and the cello growing up. And I was a lot more familiar with music than I was with performing. So I think one of the things moving forward is, I know a lot of directors especially are very, very visual, and they're like, you need to imagine very specific scenarios. And a big part of, for me is trying to learn how to be more spontaneous and immediately kind of commit to an idea, a visual idea in my head, or even just with improv and stuff like that, just feel the confidence that the things that come out of my mouth are usually going to be fine, and I need to stop overthinking them and trying to sit there and polish them. And there's a really scary and challenging, but also very freeing aspect of performance in that I've been constantly seeing myself grow in and slowly trying to overcome. And, you know, I used to be terrified of anything that was improv or whatever. I'd avoid it like the plague. And now I'm slowly, you know, uncurling all of the control fingers of like trying to hang on to script and what's predictable. So a lot of that's kind of been a big part of my journey.
I just find it incredibly impressive. Like there's a lot of persistence that I see in you, that it's such an admirable quality, because you just take things on and you just keep going. It's fantastic to see it. I've been very fortunate to be able to do a lot of interviews over the years, and I find myself constantly just really getting to like really liking the individuals that I talk to, because so many people have like so many great stories and so many great aspects of themselves, and I'm so happy when they share them. And this is definitely one of those times where I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, this Natalie kicks ass. That's all she does all day, every day. She just finds something and she kicks its ass. That's what she does. Kind of want to break off a little bit, and we've already established you've got like a wide array of interests, but what are some of the things that you do just in terms of like things you do to relax, things that you enjoy?
I am like, I feel like I'm inhabiting the body of a 60-year-old woman perpetually because I love to craft. So I love cross stitch, embroidery, I knit, I crochet. When I was when I was younger, kind of like late elementary, middle school, my aunts and my grandma, they were really into knitting and needlework and all kinds of stuff. And they'd keep giving me all their old stuff because they saw I kind of had a creative bent for it. And my mom had taught me a few things like basic sewing, and they could see me, at family gatherings, like sitting in the corner trying to sew something. And they're like, okay, she's got the knack. And my grandma used to even run like a craft supply store. So they had all this stuff laying around. So they keep offloading all this stuff on me, and they'd check in with me and they'd be like, hey, what are you working on, Natalie? And I'd be like, look at this thing I made. And I used to do, when I did that, I used to listen to audiobooks all the time. And that's how I got into audio drama, and kind of the voiceover performance kind of seeped in that way. And so I've always really liked crafting. So that's like my big release is I can just put a movie on. I really love watching like horror movies, the Blumhouse movies. They're so dumb and nothing, but I love them. Like those are some of my favorites. And I'll just put one of those on or something like that, or like an anthology or something like that. And I'll just sit there and craft. So I've got a handful of different projects for that. And that's kind of like one of my big relaxing things I like to do.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an idea. You can take it or leave it, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. Just start doing like open up an Etsy store and start selling like crochet photos of yore or anything like that. Just open up an Etsy store, do some anime crafting. Let what happens happen.
I actually used to have an Etsy store, and I used to sell, or I'd make like some cosplay props. I used to make crocheted little My Little Pony plushies, stuff like that. So I definitely did that for a while, and it was so much work to keep up with. So I've actually kind of gotten away from I don't need. There's like a TikTok, I think, like TikTok audio where it's like you don't need to monetize your hobby. I like, oh man, I feel very seen. Because there's that push. You're like, oh, I could sell stuff, but there's some wisdom in not doing that. So I try to leave my crafting for like, here's some nice Christmas presents for my friends, and I'm making a sweater right now for someone, and I'm doing an embroidery of someone else's cat. Right now, it's just kind of a nice thing I can do.
Fair enough. I know acting in particular is a very competitive field. It's kind of like baseball in that if you perform well in just a small percentage of your attempt, you're considered to be very, very good. So when you're dealing with something like that where it's mostly failure, what keeps you motivated?
It is tricky. I think I'm just very obnoxiously persistent, where I have gotten enough. And this is the thing, is when you are struggling with anything that is where the odds are against you, it does help when you have enough of those little successes along the way. And so one thing that really helped me, I think, early on was that when I started out, and I think the landscape shifted a bit different, and I think it's a lot harder in some ways for people to start off now, where you have so many more opportunities now than you had when I started. But when I started, there wasn't really any pressure to be a professional, or there wasn't any pressure to immediately be able to start doing anime and start working with an agent and all those things. When we first got started, we were just kind of making up stuff, and we were just enjoying the craft for the sake of it. And not to say one way is necessarily better or superior or anything like that, but it did take a lot of the pressure off of me, where I felt like I needed to succeed right away. And I was able to get started by just enjoying doing it and having fun with it. And then from there, as I got better, I actually started getting hired. And then the light bulb started going, oh, I'm making money from this. I wasn't going like crazy out of my way to do that, but it was kind of this moment of, okay, well, this is going to be nice pocket change. Oh, this is becoming a part-time job. This is a full-time job now. And just kind of going from there, and not feeling like I had to pressure myself into immediately going zero to, this is a full-time job. I have to do this, or my whole life is going to fall apart because this is the only thing I ever want to do. And so that is typically something I would point out as a recommendation for anyone who is looking to get into this. And what I think made a difference for me was not having that pressure or constantly having to talk myself off of, am I falling behind? Am I not getting as far ahead? It's possible I could be further ahead if I'd made some different choices, but I also think I'm happier and healthier because I didn't push myself into stressful situations that would have come with a lot of hardship just to get an extra couple inches ahead. And so far, even though it's taken me longer, I am still happy with where I am and I'm still succeeding. And I have been succeeding at a very consistent kind of incremental rate to where it's been worth it to just take my time and not feel like I have to force anything.
That's fantastic. I want so many more of those successes for you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next. Before I let you go, if people want to follow along with what you're doing, where can they do so?
Probably the best place right now is Twitter at nvansistine.com. Or at nvansistine.com. That's my website, is nvansistine.com. I'm two things mixed up, but I'm N Van Sistine on most platforms. I'm varying degrees of active on those platforms. I'm not on social like a ton, but those are the best places to find me. Like my TikTok is more like my crafting stuff, and then Twitter is more like if you want to keep up with my professional career. My Instagram, if you want to see my dogs, stuff like that.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a delight.
Thanks for listening to yet another production of the AwesomeCast, your podcast for everything awesome. You can find us online at awesomecast.com, OSMCAST.com, or, wherever you find your podcasts, just search for AwesomeCast. You can also find us on the social medias, AwesomeCast at Twitter or on Facebook. Of course, you can also find our wonderful interview guru, the greatest living interviewer, John Robbins, at J5 is Live. Or perhaps you'd like to follow our amazing editor, Anna, at Angel Darkfire. Or just me, at It's Basil Time on Twitter. Our theme song is produced by DJ Inabito, and you can find him online at djinabito.com. And once again, thanks for listening to the AwesomeCast. We appreciate you.